We are in Sculptris, just some very basic things. Remember, these are your tools up here for sculpting. These are some of your vector and your polygon maintenance tools here, and then these are your saving and exporting and new file sort of things. Don't worry about GoZ right now. This is what your brush is currently selected. This is the size of your brush. This is the strength of your brush. I'm sorry, that's the size of your brush. This is the strength of your brush. You can see here the opacity changes for strength. This is invert, which chooses the opposite motion of that brush, which we'll get into. This is the amount of detail that you get. And then there are brush material here and then a paint button. But we're going to do just a few of the tools this morning. So first of all, this is your ball of clay. When you click outside and drag your mouse, you can rotate this ball of clay. When you want to center it again quickly, you just hit the Z key on your keyboard, and it takes you to the nearest point of origin. So here's the front. Now you want to make sure that you're working the front and the back and all that as you're working on your piece. So keep your eyes on these little words down here because you don't want this thing to export upside down. Now there's tons of tools and things to do with this. Really, some of the basic tools that are great for basic sculpting are this draw tool is going to be your best friend. All right, there's like inflate and other things. These are like they go crazy and they destroy the shape. Draw is an awesome tool. All right, what draw does is it basically, and you can watch the wireframe here, I could turn this on and off here, and I'd leave your wireframe on for now, is just by adding pressure here, you're drawing. All right, now the difference between this and the like inflate tool is the inflate takes the polygons that you have and it just sort of distorts them and destroys them. What this is doing is it's actually adding polygons to your piece. All right, so let's say I'm going to make a weird creature here, and these are becoming some strange eye sockets here. All right, I'm going to make a nose on here. Now you can go up here and adjust the size and the strength of your tool, but what I would say is if you hold on the space bar, you get this little menu, and what it does is it freezes your circle. So here I can get a preview, watch the size change, of how big I want that brush to be right here. So I'm just going to go ahead and put my size right here. I'm going to change the strength is a little bit strong, so I'm going to turn it down. Okay, and then I'm just going to paint here. Now slow and steady wins the race. All right, I've said this before, and I'm just drawing over and over. I'm mouse clicking. I'm drawing another. I'm going to rotate it on the side. I'm going to look at it. I'm going to draw a little on the top, like so. I'm going to bring this down. I like a guy with a big nose here. All right. And then I want to put nostrils on the side of this guy, so I'm going to hold my space bar. I'm going to bring the size down a little bit, and I'm going to draw a nostril on here. All right, so this is one way to start building a form on here. All right, like so. So here I have a nose. Now, if I wanted to draw an eye, instead of smashing this thing and pushing it in and doing all that sort of stuff, what I can do is I can actually go to invert, which is the X button as well. I'm going to click in here. I'm going to increase the size a little bit. And you'll notice that my detail here, this is how many polygons you make. When it's really low, watch what happens when I draw. All right, it sort of pushes in here and pushes the polygons that I have. Command Z is undo. If I go to my detail here and I push, look at that. It makes a much more subtle push, and it breaks down the polygons into smaller pieces. Now, of course, the smaller the polygons, the finer the detail you're going to get, which is great. But the more polygons you get, which you look down here, the slower your machine is going to move. So I am, for the most part, going to start with very low detail, and it's going to give me, so I'm going to start pushing this eye. It's going to give me some movement in my piece like this, right? And here I'm going to change the size of my brush. I'm going to go a little smaller. I'm going to paint up in here. All right, and slow movements. I can go in and put my detail in later. If you put detail in, you're going to end up destroying it. All right, so there we go. So I'm starting to make some crevices in here, like so. All right, so those could be some eye sockets. Now, another tool that's really a great tool is if this thing gets a little too bumpy with your drawing, especially if you're, let's go back to draw here. If I'm drawing and I get all these ridges here that I don't want and all this stuff, this is your smooth tool. This is another great tool that, again, detail is sort of medium. Size and strength is around medium. Here, let's make the strength a little lower here. And let's make this a little larger. All right, and then look what happens here. It just sort of smooths out some of these details. So like if your eye, let's make this brush a little smaller. You know, if that got a little out of control as you were doing it, you know, if you want to smooth out some things down here, it just sort of smooths out any of the rough edges and things that you have. And again, you know, you can also use it as a shaping tool here. Like if this nose is too tall, it looks like it's turning into a bird skull. Turn this a little higher, and I can actually smooth that back a little bit like this. And I can smooth these sides. Let's go a little smaller. All right, now this is in 3 dimensions, so you'll notice that I'm rotating this so I can get to it from different angles. All right, let's smooth this top up here. And this will be more important when we're really starting to make some major shape changes here. All right, like so, and like so. Oops. Maybe that strength is too much. Turn down the strength, make the size a little bigger. Sort of smooth that down. All right, so here's my creature with his nose. You can sort of see he's starting to shape up a little bit. Now, you know, you can draw and draw and draw, and that's a great way to do things, but sometimes that takes a little too much time. So another tool that's really good for shaping is your grab tool. All right, I'm going to turn on my grab tool, and I think by default, global is turned on, and what global does is it grabs the whole shape. All right, and we don't want to move it around. We want to keep it on the central pivot, so I'm going to make sure that I turn off global. All right, I'm going to make this a relatively large brush. I'm going to turn the strength down because I want to make slow movements, and I'm going to turn my detail way down. And what this is going to do now is it's going to grab parts of my polygon. All right, so here I can start to expand his head, like so. I can lay it on the top, and I can pull up. All right, like so, and I can start to inflate this. This is also great if, like down here, we were talking about, I want to build a neck. Here, let me turn up the strength just a little bit. Okay, there we go. So I'm going to bring this down here. I'm going to start stretching this out. I'm going to zoom out. Oops, zoom out a little bit. Make the size of this a little smaller. Turn sideways. Bring the sides of this out. All right, and you can see the way the polygons are growing and expanding, and I'm just making like a neck and some shoulders on this guy. Pretty cool, right? All right, if you have something like this happen here, or we're getting a little bit of a problem back here, I can go back again to my smoothing tool. Let's make it a little smaller. And look at that. I just totally fixed that. All right, because you just want to keep it from getting too weird. You know, like too broken up. So never panic. Just go back and smooth it. So there's a little bit of a neck on this guy here. There's some sort of weird bird creature. There's my Z, there's my front. There's my Z key again, there's my right. All right, now I want to put a little bit of a mouth in here. Now the problem with the mouth is that when I push, so let's say I want to grab, and I want to grab a piece of this, and I want to start pushing it in. All right, this is okay. I can start to make a little bit of a mouth here, but then everything is starting to move. So what I want to do is I just want to isolate that mouth. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the mask tool, which is here. And I'm going to, I can't invert. All right, what I'm going to do now is on my keyboard, I'm going to say Command D. And that puts a mask on everything. See the way it got darker? Command D. Command A selects everything, so it turns the mask off. Command D deselects everything. Now with my mask tool, I'm just going to paint this area a little smaller. Okay. I'm going to paint this area sort of this grayish color, right, light gray. And what this does is it only selects that piece of the mouth. So now when I use my grab tool, watch what happens. It's only grabbing that inside of the mouth. And now again, my strength is maybe a little bit strong. I don't want to go too fast with this because I don't want to rip the mouth open on the inside. All right, so I'm going to go like that. I'm going to go with my smooth tool. I'm going to smooth out the inside just a little bit. Okay, smooth out this lip. Like so. So there, I created a little bit of a mouth. Now, to get rid of that, I'm going to hold down the Control key, and I'm going to click with my mouse outside here, and that inverted it. Or if I hit the Command key, I can also invert it. So I want to make sure that I want to get rid of that mask, so I'm just going to say Command A, and that selected everything again. So now what I can do is take my grabbing tool again, and I can start to grab that lip. And I'm starting to shape the mouth. Oops. Okay, I'm going to go to the top here, so drag that. All right, that part's getting a little funky here, so I'm going to Smooth tool. I'm going to smooth this part of the mouth out here a little bit. Okay, and I'm going to, maybe I'll draw a little bit on here, just to build up this lip. All right, the grabbing's becoming a little bit hard to see. Okay, make my tool smaller, like that, and build up that lip on the outside of here. All right, pretty cool, right? So there I'm starting to make the mouth and it's starting to build like this. And I can go back and I can grab it, I can fix it, all that sort of stuff here. Make this, I'm gonna connect that mouth a little bit like that. Okay, again, I can go back with my smooth tool if this front lip is getting a little funky here. Strength is a little high, like So I'll just sort of smooth that out like so. So there you go. So he's got a little bit of a mouth in there too. I can take the whole grab tool and I can try, and this just takes some practice. Let's make it just a little bit bigger. And I can try to push that mouth up a little bit. I want it to close. Okay, and I could also mask out the top part if I didn't want that to move. Okay, and then like here, like see how that chin's getting a little funky down here? It's getting like a crease in there, which actually looks kind of cool. I'm gonna smooth it out. See, it brings it back out. And this is without the inflate tool and everything, because the inflate tool will just destroy it. All right, so then finally, the last thing we're going to do is we're going to put some eyes in here. All right, he's got some empty sockets. Here's my Z, so I'm in the front. I'm going to go to this circle here, which says New Sphere. If I click on this, I can either make a whole new scene if I want to erase this guy, or I can add an object. I'm going to click on Add an Object, and I'm going to add circles. Check this out. So since they're in symmetry, which is this symmetrical button right here, they're going to be symmetrical. So I'm just going to click with my mouse, and I'm going to place those eyes. Now, obviously, they're way too large. So I'm going to use the scale, and I'm going to keep global on scale because I want them to scale together. So I'm just going to click on the ball, and I'm going to drag my mouse. I'm going to click and drag. Okay. If I didn't do that, and I just had global turned off, it would just scale parts of it and see how it rips. So I'm going to make sure that global is turned on. All right, I'm going to use my grabbing tool globally, and I'm going to reposition them. Actually, looks pretty good right there. And I'm going to put those eyes in just like that. Okay? Then I'm going to say Command A, and I'm going to select all, so now everything is selected. So there you have it. Now, oh, oops, undo. Make sure my global is turned on. And now I can move those things sort of individually. And that's your basic head shape that you guys are going to work on. Oh, and here, let's see. If I wanted to, in the draw, let's go to draw. I'm going to draw invert. I'm going to draw some nostrils in here. More vicious. All right. Oh, and then lastly, the very last thing you can do is you'll notice here my polygon count is not too bad, 2,100 or 21,000 polygons there, triangles, but I can make these a little smaller. I can either go with my reduce brush, and I can purposefully just select certain areas because I might not want to lose detail on everything. Oh, here's invert. Turn invert off. I don't want to lose detail on everything, so I can sort of paint over this like so. Or if I want to just give it a quick blast here with reduce selected, if everything is selected, it's just going to sort of reduce the polygon count of everything. And you can see I didn't really lose any detail at all, but it just sort of simplified that. All right, so there you go. Good luck.